Okay, today we're going to talk about stem change verbs. There are three kinds of these. There's E to IE, E to I, and O to UE. The first type, and it's the biggest group of them, are verbs that have an E in their stem, and that E changes to an IE. That's why they're called E to IE stem change verbs. If you have the fifth edition of clauses, that's on page 119, and the verb they use to demonstrate that is this one here, querer. You may remember this verb from the Taco Bell commercial a few years back when the little dog said, "Yo quiero Taco Bell." I want Taco Bell. Okay, now, here's the quiero that I want. Let me explain to you what happens. This is the stem, the Q-U-E-R, and it's an ER verb. So it has ER verb endings. I have the verb endings here in red. You may remember those from previous classes when you learned your ER verb endings from the present tense. Here they are. And these stem change verbs use the same endings that you use for the regular verbs. But in this case, there is a stem change. And it changes in 4 places out of the 6 conjugations. The yo form, the to form, the usted form, and the ustedes forms. If you number the slots, I would call those slots 1, 2, 3, and 6. Now, notice that there is a stem change there, but not in these 2 slots, not in the we form and not in the vosotros form. The reason is that these 2 forms have the emphasis, the accent, on a syllable that doesn't involve the stem. For example, this is queremos. The accent is on this E. This is queres. It has an accent there. It tells you the accent goes there. But for these, where the stem change occurs, the reason that stem change occurs is that the stress is on the stem, and that sort of smashes it down and causes it to go from E to IE. So instead of Q-U-E-R-O, you have Q-U-I-E-R-O. Quiero, quieres, quiere, queremos, no stem change. Queres, no stem change. But back again in slot 6, where the emphasis is back on the stem again, quieren. Okay, now this is a model for E to IE stem change verbs. There are AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs that all do this. And again, it's the biggest group. Now there is one weird verb, or a couple of others, but one, for example, there's an I to IE. This is adquirir, to acquire. And so adquiero is the yo form, but notice that's an I to IE instead of E to IE. Not very many of these, a big group of these E to IE verbs. Okay, now we're talking about verbs that are E to I. In this example, we have the verb pedir, to order or ask for. Notice again that the stem changes occur in 1, 2, 3, and 6. The yo form, the to form, the usted form, and the ellos ustedes form, slot 6. And again, the we form and the vosotros form don't stem change. And the reason those 2 don't, again, is because the emphasis is not on the stem. Pedimos, on the I. Pedis, again, on that I. So there's no need for a stem change. But here, where there is emphasis on the stem, it causes it to crush down. And this time, instead of going E to IE, it goes E to I. So you have pido, pides, pide, pedimos, pedis, piden. Most all of these verbs that are E to I are IR verbs. It's very common for them. Some of their IR verbs go E to IE, but a lot of the IR verbs go E to I, like this one. Now, this, if you have a 5th edition of clauses, is on page 120 in the middle of the page. And in the chapter that discusses this, it only talks about 3. Pedir, repetir, and servir. So those are the 3 that you'll have to be familiar with for this chapter. There are other stem change, E to I stem change verbs. For example, the verb decir, to say or to tell. But it's not in this chapter of clauses. Okay, now, this last group of stem change verbs are verbs that have an O, and the O changes to UE. For example, here we have the verb almorzar, to eat lunch. And the stem changes we're familiar with now. In this case, I have an AR verb. Before I had an ER verb and an IR verb. This time, these are AR verb endings here in the red, the ones that you already knew. And this stem change verb has those endings. But the O in the verb is going to change to a UE again in slots 1, 2, 3, and 6. The yo form, the to form, the usted form, and the ellos ustedes form. The vosotros form and the vosotros form, those 2 won't stem change because the emphasis is not on that stem. Now notice if you have a multiple syllable verb that the stem change occurs in the last vowel of the stem because that's where the emphasis goes, that's what causes it to crush down. And in this case, that O is going to crush down to UE. So instead of almuerzo, it's almuerzo, almuerzas, almuerza, almorzamos. No stem change because the emphasis is on this A. It's not on that stem. And here, almorzais. Again, the emphasis is on the A, not on the stem. But when we get back to the last conjugation, the slot 6 or ellos ustedes conjugation, the emphasis is back on the stem with the UE, almuerzan. Now, there are quite a few of these, and you can see these if you have the 5th edition of Ariba. It's at the bottom of page 120 and on to page 121 with a list of them. There is one unusual verb in this group that has a U instead of O. Jugar, the verb to play, as in playing sports or games, is a U to UE. So it's juego, juegas, juega, like that. Okay, now, again, we have E to IE, the biggest group. E to I, and in this chapter you just have 3 of those. Then you have quite a few that are O to UE. If you have these all in one exercise where you're trying to tell them apart, these are the easiest ones to recognize because they have O's instead of E's. The other 2 groups both have an E. They either change from E to I or E to IE. The E to IE group is the biggest group. So you don't want to memorize that one per se. You want to memorize the 3 that are the E to I verbs, repetir, pedir, and servir, and narrow it down that way. So if I have a big group, I start with these. I recognize which ones are the O to UE verbs. Then I pick out the 3 E to I verbs, and then whatever I have left over then would be my E to IE verbs.